Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the weekend analysis, and this will be for the upcoming week of the 20th of October 2025. Now, there is a very big week ahead. Do note that the CPI numbers will be out on Friday. Now, this is a bit unusual because typically CPI tends to be released right on the Wednesday, but somehow or another, for this month, the CPI will actually be on Friday. Okay. Now last week, of course, we had a bit of volatility in the markets, and I think it's something that it's kind of expected, because the markets are starting to pull back from areas that are way overbought. Now on your screen, you have the S&P 500, which we go through every single week. Now let me just go through a weekly chart, and you'll see why I say that the markets are really overbought. Now if you look at the weekly chart, you will see that the stochastic index is at very high levels, right, around 90 plus, right. Typically, this cannot happen for too long, right? Typically, the market would then tend to pull back. Now, you will note that the only time the market actually pulled back this year was actually in April. We had a very sharp pullback, and what led to that pullback was obviously the market's just ramping up tremendously, and then finally April we get that pullback. So the market since April has just ramped up very tremendously over the past couple of months. Over the past 6-7 months, the market has just been going higher and higher. Now this is what we call unsustainable. Okay, this is not sustainable at all. What you actually see here is very interesting here. If you see the screen here, you will see that this candle here, right, on the 10th of October, that was a bearish candle on that Friday. Now that Friday also coincides with a lot of things that are happening in the markets, also the trade talks between the US and China. So that led to actually the pullback. Now this week we had a kind of like a sideways week, which is kind of expected because you don't get a pullback so quickly, right? You get a bit of a pullback, and then after that a sideways consolidation, then a further pullback. Now I still think that the markets are primed to pull back even further. I think that's something that I think is not unexpected, but something that we can expect here because the markets just ran up so much, right, over the past couple of months, right? So S&P 500, I think the general market has a high tendency of pulling back. Now if you look at the other general indices like the Dow Jones and Nasdaq, right, they are also signaling that a potential pullback is to come, right? I think this is something that we need to be prepared of. But then again, you can see that on the daily chart, the stochastic index has reached a point where it actually reached a bit slightly oversold. Right, that's a very good sign, right? Because you see, the markets, if they don't pull back, right, there is very little money to be made, right? Essentially, you can see that there are very little opportunities in the markets all the way since April, right? That doesn't mean that we're not done well. We have done extremely well this year, extremely well, right? The portfolio is up close to about 40% for the year. That's extremely good. But do note that big money is made, right, when there's a sharp pullback and when there's a corrective period, which we have not seen yet this year. The only time we saw this was actually in April. So I'm looking forward to this pullback. I think if the markets do pull back, it will be a tremendous opportunity to really be buying the markets because, yep, I think every pullback, right, it's a potential buying opportunity. Now, let me go through today the large cap technology names and I'll share with you what exactly is happening here. Now, if you look at the general markets, you will go for names that I have not ran this year, right? And obviously Tesla would come to mind, right? Tesla is a name that has not run this year yet, but is trending in an uptrend. Though it's very slow, is trending in an uptrend. Now, people may tell you that, Tesla is not going up as much because it has gone up so much over the past couple of years, that now it's kind of like going up in a more reasonable or what we call a more normal way, right? If you look at the stochastic index, you'll see that we're at a low stochastic point and we're actually firmly above the 50 moving average, kind of like consolidating as well. So I think Tesla, right, if you look at all the other names, I think Tesla looks the most attractive here. Just personally, my personal feel is that Tesla looks like a potential buying opportunity here in the near term. I think if you look at other names, they are very overbought, they're starting to pull back, but Tesla on the other hand is actually starting to go up. So there's something quite interesting over here. Now, the next chart here that is also starting to go up here is Apple, right? Apple is starting to run again, right? You see this chart very nice. What I like about this is that prices has really sold down below the near the 50 moving average for low stochastic point. So this is a signal for daily entry. I think on the daily chart here, Apple looks very nice, right? It's one of the nicer charts here, right? In fact, Tesla and Apple looks the two most nicest names in the markets. But then you again, you note that they are very high level of resistance right over here, right? Very high level of resistance around 260, right? Very high level of resistance here. So I think Tesla is primed to pull back, right? Once it hit 260. But then again, Apple, watch for another opportunity here. I think Apple looks very good as well. Now, Netflix, right, already starting to pull back. Now this one is heavily what we call overbought, right? Huge run to the upside. It's looking like price like wants to consolidate downwards in this channel here, right? So I think Netflix here, not the time to really be buying this. I think if you own this, I think it's starting to top out, right? So one that you should watch a bit closely here as well. I will cover Adobe and Nvidia as well, right? Looking like price is starting to top out as well, right? Yeah, I think all these names have done very, very well over the past couple of years, but then again, they are just so overbought, okay? Google, right? Google actually looks quite interesting. The reason why Google looks promising is because of this gap over here, right? And I like this kind of gap patterns. Whenever you have this gap up here, whatever chart that you actually see, right, it's a sign that big buyers are starting to buy into the stock, right? Especially large institutional investors, right? So Google here looks pretty interesting here as price actually ran to the upside, pullback, and after that now it's starting to run again. So one of the other names, right, it looks pretty good as well, I think, is Google. Meta, right? This one already looks like it has topped out, so price like to pull back further, right? Look at this price here, right? Look at this moving average here, right? The moving average is actually starting to decline, right? This is a sign of weakness that is actually coming in here in Meta, right? Whenever you have a sign of a declining moving averages, average price actually start to sell down to the downside. So Meta, if you own this, it's want to be a little bit careful here. Microsoft also, I do think that it is starting to top up as well, right? Huge run to the upside. Now it's kind of like consolidating as well, right? Moving averages really starting to turn down to the downside, so something to take note as well. Amazon, right? This one already starting to turn down, but I think eventually Amazon goes much higher, right? If you look at Amazon, what's so interesting here is that the moving averages, right, you can see here has started to decline. So if price can actually start to pull back and then eventually form a bottom, we will see a very, very solid breakout to the upside above 240, right? So Amazon, I think, want to really be watching here. I think the longer run here looks really, really good. Now, Salesforce, I think, false breakout this week, so it continue to go lower. I think this one need to really be careful here, not really be buying it yet. Oracle, right? Oracle also another strong name in the large technology sector, but it's still, kind of like consolidating as well. So having looked at all these names in the large technology sector, you will see a very similar picture to what the S&P 500 is actually shaping up. Very simply, you would see that Tesla and Apple is starting to hit to the upside, but all the other names that has already ranked, the stronger names, right, they've done very well, are starting to pull back, right? So that's actually an interesting sign that the overall market is going to pull back in the short run towards the middle run, right? I think that's something to take note here. Once you get that pullback, a huge opportunity ahead for the markets. All right, so with that, I want to wish you a very good week ahead. Please take care and stay. Enjoy the holiday tomorrow, right? The Deeper Valley holiday, but markets are open in the US, so we get excited for the week. Hopefully get that pullback soon, and then a much better buying opportunity is along the way. Okay, with that, I wish you a good week and happy holidays. Thank you very much.